Good afternoon. My name is Mason Swenson. I'm the Vice President of Product Management for CrashPlan. As more applications move to the cloud and Cloud Sync replaces traditional file server workloads, the prevailing wisdom has become that backing up data from the systems where it's created presents diminishing value. This should raise questions about how this affects your business continuity and disaster recovery plans. I'll walk through reasons why you still need to care for the endpoint. I'll present to you other use cases as well that can benefit you from having a good endpoint backup. I'll also talk through how remote work affects you and your users. Data is the lifeline of all companies. IP is not just copyrights, patents, trademarks, and trade secrets. Each business is different. For you, IP can be price lists, customer contacts, or research documents. And this data is everywhere, not just in servers or in cloud applications. People work locally, they don't like to log into VPN, and many server backups only occur once a day. Without an endpoint solution in place, you could lose the IP sitting on these machines. And as you've seen from the Allstate commercials, mayhem is everywhere. I'll walk you through a few examples of this. As you know, not all hard drives last forever, and sometimes they fail at the worst times possible. You also have that Monday morning where you're just a little bit tired and you spill your coffee all over your laptop, and there goes all your data. Yes, it's a rare occasion, but sometimes you forget your laptop in a car, it gets stolen, or many other ways that it may not just be in your car. The other thing that you all are very aware of is there's this great resignation going on. And as people leave your companies, they either maliciously or inadvertently delete all the information on their computer. Sometimes they think it's just the best thing to do. And then there's my favorite from Reddit, where this gentleman puts his laptop on his truck, drives down the highway, and realizes, oh no, my laptop was on my truck. Can you help me fix it? Well, we can't help you fix that laptop, but we sure can preserve that data. A CISO from a major airline stated, my biggest fear is that I spend all this budget on ransomware and I don't cover any vector. You can't prevent everything. Ransomware is probably the biggest mayhem that we know of. Yeah, I know. Everybody knows about ransomware. But in the 2022 Annual Data Exposure Report from Code 42, you can see that over 55% of companies are concerned that their employees have become lax in their cybersecurity practices, and 70% in the public sector. But if everybody knows it's bad, why does it keep happening? One thing you'll notice is that 96% of companies say they need to improve their data security training. This is because many end users believe that it's IT and security's responsibility to take care of things like ransomware. Of that 96, 32% of companies say that they need a total overhaul of their security training, and that's almost double in the public sector. But we are all really busy, so improving, let alone an overhaul, doesn't typically make the priority list. And this problem continues to grow. We know that there are EDR solutions out there that prevent much of the ransomware attempts, but they can't catch it all. Ransomware accounted for 10% of all breaches in 2021, and 37% of organizations globally encountered a ransomware attack. But probably what's most daunting is the cost of ransomware globally is estimated to be $265 billion in 2031. But having a great backup solution prevents your company from having to pay those fines and being part of that stat. Some of you may have heard of the Toy Story 2 incident that happened in 1998. I know, 1998, not very relevant. But actually, as you go through this story, you'll see it is. Just before the final edits, someone ran a command line at a root level instead of directory level. And this command started erasing every file they had of the movie. Everyone was in a total panic. Luckily, there was a woman on the team that had been working from home a lot because she just had a baby. And she had the most recent backup on her computer. She ran home, grabbed the computer. They swaddled it in blankets and put it in her car. Someone sat in the back seat to cradle it to make sure nothing happened to it. They got it back to the studio and they were able to recover all the data. So once again, it shows having a backup of your endpoints is very important. This also reminds me about working remotely and some of the other great use cases for having a backup on your endpoint. Legal hold is never a fun topic, not for IT and not for your end users. Legal hold methods are reactive and they're very error prone. Typically it involves someone grabbing a laptop or a hard drive and making copies of this data and storing it somewhere as legal submits a request to IT. We had a customer that once told us about a story how before they had endpoint backup, they took all the hard drives and all the laptops and they stored it in a closet. I would say when it's time to search for that data, pretty tough. Also, the chance that those devices are still in working form by the time you go to look for that data will also be another yeoman's task. The other part about being on legal hold is there's a lot of pressure on IT because legal will come in and they're not worried about what your schedule is or what you have going on today, tomorrow, or this week. They are going to need all this data as soon as possible. Now what happens if you have a remote worker? How are you going to collect that data? Typically it used to be where there's just sales reps that were out in the field and it was 1 or 2 or 10% of your employee base, and now it's almost your whole employee base that is remote. This becomes an even more challenging problem to solve. Having an endpoint backup and an in-place backup really makes this easy to do. Some solutions come in and say, well, we'll just go grab the data now. That creates CPU hits and just a very disruptive experience for your end users. It makes them very unhappy. You're getting a lot of calls that you have to deal with that aren't related to your day-to-day job that you want to be handling. So having that cloud backup that's already there allows you to take that data, put it on hold, and preserve it in a way that is very non-disruptive to your end users and to your IT team. Getting a new device is exciting, but it's also a dreadful experience. Similar, when we talked about that legal hold experience, you have to grab that data from your old device, copy it somewhere, so the end user is without a machine for maybe hours on end. If you're remotely, it could be even days, or you have to wait for a sales conference or an all hands where everyone's coming into town. Very disruptive to everybody that is in the situation. But like I talked about in the legal hold situation, once you have that data and it's stored somewhere else, it's very similar to getting a new iPhone. You go into the store, they say, have you made a backup of your iCloud? Yes, I have. They hand you a new phone, you restore it back down, and you're off and running. Same thing with a backup. You can take that new computer, you can partner with people like Jamf and use those tools and deploy all the new software down to that machine, and you can start the restore, hand that computer back to your end user, and they're back up and running in no time. Very few clicks. And if you're remote, you can do all that same stuff and ship them the computer, and everything is ready to go for them. Once they're back up and running, they ship you back that computer. This saves you a lot of time and money. So what starts out as endpoint backup and recovery really becomes a solution to help you from ransomware recovery, from breaches, device migrations, and legal holds. I thank you for your time, and I will now take any questions.